Well, good evening. Welcome to Hamilton Southeastern Intermediate Junior High. My name is Ben Yoder, and it's my privilege, as always, to be the orchestra director here. The group behind me is our beginning orchestra. They've been playing, most of them have just started this past August, and have continued on now. And so that first piece we're doing, or we did, rather, was the Mahler Round. It's a theme from one of Mahler's symphonies, Mahler's first symphony. And so we're going to move on now to a piece called King Tut in a Rut, and you'll understand why it's titled that way once you hear it. So, King Tut. All right, well, before we do our last song, this has been a short and sweet concert this evening. I do want to speak to you a little bit about kind of the reorganization, the redistricting that's happening next year, and kind of some other directions that we want to get to. First of all, I want to assure you, those behind me and in front of me, that no matter which junior high your student is headed to within our district, they will be well taken care of in the orchestra program. We have 4 incredible orchestra teachers teaching at the junior high level. If your student is headed to Fall Creek next year, Mr. Andy Wirtz will be your student's teacher. He is phenomenal. I went to college with him at Ball State, and he is just fantastic, a bass player. If your student is headed to Fishers, they will have Mrs. Amanda Coronet, who has been in the district, I think, longer than any of us, perhaps, and has been doing a great job over there at Fishers. And of course, if your student is headed to Riverside, they will have Mrs. Johanna Kitchell, who is another fine orchestra teacher doing great things over there. So I want to assure you that no matter which building you're headed to next year, you'll be fine. And of course, if you're here, you're stuck with me, sorry, but that's the way it is. So, and no matter where you're going, it's going to be great. If your student has a Pages instrument and you are playing somewhere within our district next year, you can hang on to that instrument. You take it home with you over the summer. Students will take those home. They do not need to return those. So if you are renting from Pages and your student is going to play next year in any of the HSE schools, you can go ahead and hang on to that instrument. You do not need to return it over the summer. If your student is using a school-owned instrument, we will need to gather those up by Friday because they go off for repairs over the summer. So if they're using one of those, I'll come to your student and ask for it back. I think a couple I already have, but just in case I miss you, we will need those school-owned instruments back. And then, of course, if your student is not going to play next year, you have a couple of choices. You can get that Pages instrument back to me by this Friday, and if you do that, I will return it to Pages for your family. So you don't have to worry about that. As long as I have it by Friday, I can get it sent in. If I don't have the instrument by Friday and your student is planning not to go on, then that means it'll be your responsibility to get it back to Pages yourself because they come into a final pickup on Tuesday of next week, and that is the end of seeing them for this school year. So if I don't get that instrument back by Friday, you're running from Pages, you will be responsible to get that instrument back to Pages yourselves. Okay? If you have any questions about that, you can feel free to email me. I do have a couple of other people to thank before we round this out. I'd like to first thank our principal, Mr. Tim Mankin. I'm not sure where he is. He might be in the booth. Oh, he's right back there, for being so supportive of our orchestra program. Along, of course, with our vice principal, Mr. Jeff Haiguli, and our dean, Mr. Bryce Willie, also wonderful supporters of the arts here. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Mr. Zach Tschiniak, who is on the piano, and the HIJH orchestra teacher, as well as my assistant here for 6th grade. So if we can give him a hand, Mr. Tschiniak. We also have a Ball State student teacher, and she's right over there, Miss Jessica Joyner. So we can give her a hand as well. Thank you for your help. And last but not least, of course, parents and stakeholders, it has been a joy to have your students in orchestra this year. We've had a lot of fun, made a lot of music, and looking forward to seeing a lot of them back next year. So thank you. Students, would you give your parents a hand for what they've done for you? Awesome. So thank you so much, parents and our other guests that are here this evening for coming out to support us. We are going to end this portion of the program tonight with a classic piece that has been done at this school for years and years, String Explosion.